Hey everybody, welcome back.
Hey.
My name is Omar Hasan-Towery.
I'm Keith Hasan-Towery.
And our results are in for our embryo testing.
The results are in.
They're in. But before we get into that, let's do a quick recap just to refresh y'all of what went down, what's been going on. All right. So, So, day one results. I had 6 embryos, but on the second day, one of those embryos progressed, so it ended up being actually 7 embryos, and Keith had 9 embryos. So day 3, I had 4 embryos, Keith had 8 embryos, and day 5, I had 3 embryos, Keith had 7 embryos. And the reason why those numbers go up and down, fluctuate, is because embryos can actually progress and degress.
Stop progressing.
Degress, stop progressing. There you go. So they can move forward or just actually go back. So that's why the numbers go up and down. At the end of the day, we had 10 embryos that were sent off for testing.
So with those 10 embryos that we had sent off for testing, they sent them to a company called iGenomics. It's kind of like My Sharona a little bit. But iGenomics.
I can't pronounce that word. So.
Genomics.
However he gets it in his brain is better than me. I can't say
it. So with iGenomics, what they did was, or first, I guess what I should say, what our embryologist did, what our clinic did was they took some of the cells that would eventually like form the area where the placenta will be. They did some assisted hatching to kind of make sure that they can get that properly. They took those samples, sent it to iGenomics. iGenomics, their job was to make sure that the embryos actually had the correct number of chromosomes. So the particular test that we did was the pre-genetic testing for androploidy, and androploidy just meaning making sure that the correct amount of chromosomes are accounted for. So they did that. The testing definitely, it's not required, but we decided to do the testing because it's very important for us to try to get this right as best as we can on the first time around because of the cost, like we always keep saying. So the PGTA testing helps the embryologist makes the best decision about which embryos they should implant into the surrogate.
Yeah, which cuts down on in the future having to possibly terminate the pregnancy or possible miscarriage.
Miscarriages, right? Because if the chromosome numbers aren't right with the embryo, then the body tends to automatically, abort the process.
Yes, and also it can test for the sex. It can tell you the sex of the child, but we don't necessarily care about that. We just want the healthiest child. But we did find out the sex in a way.
Well, we found out the sex, right?
We actually did get the sex
yeah.
of the children.
But we don't know like per embryo. We just know like how many of this and how many of that per the 10 embryos that were tested. So, but I'm wondering, should we talk about our experience with iGenomics?
Sure. Why not?
Why not? So what was your experience with iGenomics?
So I think they're really good. I really enjoyed working with them. They contacted us right away before they did the testing and let us know, they really were really on it with like keeping us on point with each step of working with their agency, which I really appreciated. We didn't have to track them down or constantly email them and or call them to figure out what was going on. They were on it from day one.
Yeah, and they were very responsive. Of course, they took the payment right away, which we like, right? Because that means that they are doing the work. But they were very much so like, we're going to get this done for you and we're going to turn this around as quick as possible. And, we were initially told 2 weeks.
Yes.
But they actually turned it around in like a week. Not even a week, I feel like it was like 4 days.
Yeah, it was actually really short.
It was so short.
Yeah.
It just took maybe 2 or 3 days for our embryologist to get back to us. Dr. Abbasi got back to us though and told us, I think within the end of that week, like what the results were.
Which was good because all of you possible IVFers out
All the
there,
intended parents, IPs.
There you go. All the people out there that are, thinking about through this process or is actually going through this process. It is a little nerve-wracking waiting to get those results back.
Yeah.
So yeah, expect a week to 2 weeks to get those results back.
So we got the results back, right? We told you guys that we sent off 10 samples of our embryos for testing, and baby, what did we have as a result?
So our results came back. Drum roll, please.
There it goes.
We came back that I had 3 normal embryos and Keith had 5 normal embryos. So he started off with 7 embryos and 5 came back normal embryos. And we just found out about that part, that even though 2 of them were considered to be non-testable, that's what they call it, that they can't test it. We were told that even though that result came back for those 2 embryos, that we should probably go ahead and hold on to those embryos instead of discarding them, because they might actually in the long run actually work if we need them.
Right.
We heard an example of someone that was in that situation and they actually used those embryos and the baby was perfectly fine. Yep. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and, even though 2 of them are non-testable, we're going to actually hold on to those as well.
And I think the other word that they use for non-testable, they call Mosaic. So, we don't know. But we're going to hold on to those embryos. But that means that we have a total of 8 in between us that are good to go or ready for takeoff.
Yes. Ready for takeoff. So how you feel about that? How do you feel about knowing we have 8 embryos that can go ahead and be implanted into our surrogate?
I mean, 8. Like, when you think about it, those are like 8 potential kids. So I just keep thinking about having to feed 8 mouths right now, right? But no, it just, in all seriousness, it's just, you will hear me say this over and over again. It just becomes realer and realer on each step. So I'm still very excited, but like now I'm in like, I don't know if it's daddy mode yet, but it's just like I'm thinking about what the next steps are and what we got to do for the babies.
Yes. Oh, and also, I don't think we actually said this in our previous videos, but our plan, our hope, our dream is to use one of Keith's embryos and one of my embryos. So we're shooting for twins, and so that's what we're going to do. That's what's happening.
Right. And I guess speaking of that too, we want to make sure that, because I think there was a comment about, well, why do we keep saying Keith embryos and Omar embryos? I think we wanted to really just drive home the message, like, we're both trying to have embryos created that both have our genetic makeup in them in the attempt to do it. But like moving forward now, they're all our kids, so we're going to continue just to not distinguish between those and just say these are our kids.
Yeah. If you are going through this, try not to think about it as, this person has this many embryos, that person has this many embryos. Those are all your babies, all your potential babies. So that actually does help.
So wow. So with 8 embryos now that are queued up, I guess it's just a waiting game at this point. Now it's time for the next part of the process to step in, which is having the surrogate prepared and ready to do the transfer.
Yes, which will be our next video.
Yes.
Coming soon.
Yes, it will.
Thanks for tuning in, you guys, and thanks for being there, and we'll be back soon.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.